Rugbat, in the Sagittarian sector, was a golden G-type star. It had 5 planets, 2 asteroid belts, and a stray planet that it had attracted and held in recent millennia. When men first settled on Rugbat's third world and called it Pern, they had taken little notice of the strange planet swinging around its adopted primary in a wildly erratic orbit. For 2 generations, the colonists gave the bright red star little thought, until the path of the wanderer brought it close to its stepsister at perihelion. When such aspects were harmonious and not distorted by conjunctions with other planets in its system, parasitic organisms indigenous to the wandering planet sought to bridge the space gap between their home and the more temperate and hospitable planet. At these times, silver threads dropped through Pern's skies, destroying anything they touched. The initial losses the colonists suffered were staggering. As a result, during the subsequent struggle to survive and combat the menace, Pern's tenuous contact with the mother planet was broken. To control the incursions of the dreadful threads, for the Pernies had cannibalized their transport ships early on and abandoned such technological sophistications as was irrelevant to the pastoral planet, the more resourceful men embarked on a long-term plan. The first phase involved breeding a highly specialized variety of fire lizards, a life form indigenous to their new world. Men and women with high empathy ratings and some innate telepathic abilities were trained to use and preserve the unusual animals. The dragons, named for the mythical Terran beast they resembled, had 2 valuable characteristics. They could instantaneously travel from one place to another, and after chewing a phosphine-bearing rock, they could emit a flaming gas. Because the dragons could fly, they could intercept and char the threads in mid-air before it reached the surface. It took generations to develop the fullest potential of the dragons. The second phase of the proposed defense against the deadly incursions would take even longer. For Thread, a space-traveling mycorrhizoid spore, devoured with mindless ferocity all organic matter, and, once grounded, burrowed and proliferated with terrifying speed. So a symbiote of the same strain was developed to counter this parasite. The resulting grub was introduced into the soil of the southern continent. It was planned that the dragons would be visible protection, charring threads while it was still skyborne, and protecting the dwellings and the livestock of the colonists. The grub symbiote would protect vegetation by devouring what thread managed to evade the dragon's fire. The originators of the 2-stage defense did not allow for change or for hard geological fact. The southern continents, though seemingly more attractive than the harsher northern land, proved unstable, and the entire colony was forced to seek refuge from the thread on the continental shield rock of the north. On the northern continent, the original Fort Hold, constructed on the eastern face of the Great West Mountain Range, was soon outgrown by the colonists, and its capacious beast hold could not contain the growing numbers of dragons. Another settlement was started slightly to the north, where a great lake had formed near a cave-filled cliff, but Rutha Hold, too, became overcrowded within a few generations. Since the Red Star rose in the east, the people of Pern decided to establish a holding in the eastern mountains, provided a suitable cave site could be found. Only solid rock and metal, which was in distressingly short supply on Pern, were impervious to the burning scores of thread. The winged-tailed, fire-breathing dragons had by then been bred to a size that required more spacious accommodations than cliffside holds could provide. The cave-pocked cones of extinct volcanoes, one high above the first fort, the other in Bendon Mountains, provided to be adequate and required only a few improvements to be made habitable. The dragons and the riders in their high places and the people in their cave holds went about their separate tasks, and each developed habits that became custom, which solidified into tradition as inconvertible as law. And when a fall of thread was imminent, when the red star was visible at dawn through the star stones erected at the rim of each weir, the dragons and their riders mobilized to protect the people of Pern. Then came an interval of 200 turns of the planet Pern around its primary, when the red star was at the far end of its erotic orbit, a frozen, lonely captive. No thread fell on Pern. The inhabitants erased the signs of thread depredation and grew crops, planted orchards, and thought of reforestation for the slopes denuded by the thread. They even managed to forget that they had once been in great danger of extinction. Then, when the wandering planet returned, the threads fell again, bringing another 50 years of attack from the skies. Once again, the Pernese thanked their ancestors, now many generations removed, for providing the dragons whose fiery breath seared the falling thread midair. Dragonkind, too, had prospered during the interval and had settled in 4 other locations, following the master plan of the interim defense. Recollections of Earth receded farther from Pernese memory with each generation until knowledge of mankind's origins degenerated into a myth. The significance of the southern hemisphere and the instructions formulated by the colonial defenders of Dragon and Grub became garbled and lost in the more immediate struggle to survive. By the 6th path of the Red Star, pass of the Red Star, a complicated socio-political economic structure had been developed to deal with recurrent evil. The 6 wires, as the old volcanic habitations of the dragon folk were called, pledged themselves to protect Pern, each weir having a geographical section of the northern continent literally under its wing. The rest of the population agreed to tithe support to the weirs, since the dragon men did not have arable land in their volcanic homes, could not afford to take time away from nurturing their dragons to learn other trades during peacetime, and could not take time away from protecting the planet during passes. Settlements, called holds, developed wherever natural caves were found, some, of course, more extensive or strategically placed than others. It took a strong man to exercise control over terrified people during threat attacks. It took wise administration to conserve victuals when nothing could be safely grown, and it took extraordinary measures to control population and keep it productive and healthy until such as time as menaced the past. Men with special skills in metalworking, weaving, animal husbandry, farming, fishing, mining formed craft holds in each large hold and looked to one master craft hall where the precepts of the craft were taught and the craft skills were preserved and guarded from one generation to the other. One lord holder could not deny the products of a craft hall situated in his hold to others, since the crafts were deemed independent of a hold affiliation. Each craft master of a hall owed allegiance to the master of his particular craft, an elected office based on proficiency in the craft and administrative ability. The master craftsman was responsible for the output of his halls and the distribution, fair and unprejudiced, of all craft products on a planetary rather than parochial basis. Certain rights and privileges accrued to different leaders of holds and masters of crafts, and naturally to the Dragon Riders, whom all of Pern looked to for protection during the threadfalls. It was within the weirs that the greatest social revolution took place, for the needs of the dragons took priority over all other considerations. Of the dragons, the gold and green were female, the bronze, brown, and blue male. Of the female dragons, only the golden were fertile. The greens were rendered sterile by the chewing of firestone, which was as well since the sexual proclivities of the small greens would soon have resulted in overpopulation. They were the most agile, however, and most invaluable as fighters of thread, fearless and aggressive. But the price of fertility was inconvenienced, and the riders of queen dragons carried flamethrowers to char thread. The blue males were sturdier than their smaller sisters, while the browns and bronzes had the staying power for long, arduous battles against thread. In theory, the great golden fertile queens were mated with whichever dragon could catch them in their strenuous mating flights. Generally speaking, the bronzes did the honor. Consequently, the riders of bronze dragons who flew the senior queen of a wire became its leader and had charge of fighting wings during a pass. The rider of a senior queen dragon, however, held the most responsibility for the wire during and after a pass, when it was the werewoman's job to nurture and preserve the dragons, to sustain and improve the were and all its folk. A strong werewoman was essential to the survival of the were as dragons were to the survival of Pern. To her fell the task of supplying the were, fostering its children, and searching for likely candidates from hall and hold to pair with newly hatched dragons. As life in the were was not only prestigious but easier for women and men alike, Hald and Hole were proud to have their children taken on search, and boasted for illustrious members of the bloodline who became dragon riders. Now, in the year or turn of their reckoning, 1541, when the sixth pass of the Red Star was nearly over, the inhabitants, lord holders, craftmasters, and wares faced a new peril which threatens them as surely as does thread. Good morning, good evening, night. Welcome back to another Inukiba Let's Play, kind of. This is a bit of a sneak peek at a series that I'm going to hopefully start pretty soon. How's it going, buddy? You wanna say hi? Say hi to everybody. Come on, cutie. He's shy. He's shy. So, this is a sneak peek at a series that I'm going to be doing. The intro bit that you just heard was the summary of one of Anne McCaffrey's books, based one of the many of the books in the series of Pern. I'm a huge fan of the Pernies series. It's my favorite book series, if I had to say. I would love to meet Anne McCaffrey in real life. I don't know if that's a possibility, considering she was pretty old whenever I was first reading her books. And I've been meaning to try to make it to a Dragon Con since then. But that was the summary of the world of Pern up to that last paragraph, which was to the specific book that I was reading, which is why I stopped for a second there before finishing reading it, because I realized it was very specific to the one book. But that is the summary of the series that I'm going to be doing here. Now, if you remember the colors I was reading, black isn't on there. I will either retexture this dragon or use just a red one and consider it bronze or something like that. But there are blue dragons, so I can get a blue dragon, which would work because my character is, of course, male. And that kind of matters a little bit. This is a mod made by, I think, Barracuda something. I'll be sure to link it whenever I actually do the series. But it's a really good mod. It's well done. Stop looking into the wall. Come say hi. You want to stand up? Say hi to everybody. You shy. You sit down. This is a sneak peek for a series that I'm going to be doing. I said that like 12 times. The mod itself is great. There's a few things that, of course, you would expect from a dragon mod. One is the ability to breathe fire, which, of course, I can't. And using the excuses, like, using the book's lore, I can come up with the excuse that there is no more Firestone, quote-unquote, in the area that I have been sent to. Depending on how I do these things, how I decide to do this. The reason I'm not going to start the series now is because I feel I can get this actually pretty damn accurate if with the right collection of mods. Another problem with the dragon mod that won't match up with the book is the dragons in the book have the ability to go in between, and I say that in quotes. In between is basically teleportation, which you would think an ender dragon would be able to do, which actually is a good point, but dragons have the ability that when they can sync up with their rider using telepathy, which is how these communicate, through kind of what's that word? Whenever a baby chicken or a baby goose or whatever sees something and it thinks it's its mother. Imprinting? I think it's called imprinting. But whenever a dragon hatches, it's imprinted to someone that it's matched with, who is, chosen from the holds or wares or halls. So it's imprinted, of course, and that is done telepathically. So that is how they communicate to each other. Obviously, you can't do that. You can't talk to the dragon, but of course, we don't really need to. I could always have somebody come in and do the voice acting, quote unquote, for the dragon. But the ability to go in between is pretty key to the Pernese dragon. The ability to teleport, basically. And if I'm remembering properly, they visualize a place that they want to be, they want to go. And then the dragon goes in between, and then there's enough time for you to cough 3 times before you're back into reality. Because basically what you do is you teleport into space, and then you teleport back where you're wanting to be. That's basically how it's described. You're basically in the absolute nothingness with just you and the dragon. There's no sound, there's no light, there's nothing. And that's the reason why they don't call it anything specific. It's just in between. You're in between one place and the other. We can't do that. I have a feeling I can use the Nether as a sort of in between, because I won't be able to activate it anywhere, of course, which the Dragons of Pern can, but I'll be able to use the Nether as, of course, a short travel distance. So basically teleporting, you are going through one port, going there, and coming through another. And with some clever editing, some texture pack work, and if I can find a mod to increase portal sizes so that I can just walk him through, I think I can make that work. I think that's one reason why I'm not going to do this series right away. I think if I can get enough particular mods together, I can make this a pretty accurate representation of the Dragon Riders of Pern. I could perhaps use Millionaire to get the holds and halls, They, of course, won't be in rock faces. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that, I do not believe. Um, so I could get villages and stuff, so people that I have to protect. I believe there's a bacterium mod that is basically like this widespreading bacteria that unless you stop it, it destroys everything. So that could simulate the thread for this series. I don't know if that'll work because I don't know how it works because I'd have to look up that mod. Which is why, of course, I want to take my time and get this done right. I don't want to do this half-ass. I really want to do this. I'm also tempted to wait for 1.7 because the new biome generation looks amazing and it looks perfect for the Pernies style. Like, I like this ravine a lot, actually. This is like one of the few ravines I actually like. It's nice, it's clean, it goes all the way to the surface. It's really long. It's well made, basically. And it's got just enough space where I can, float a dragon down here and put him in a little werehold. Um, or where. But, like, I'm pretty sure that, like, the stone beaches, those are going to be perfect for a Pernies type series in 1.7. So this series might take a long time to get together because I'll have to wait for 1.7 to come out, and then I'll also have to wait for the mods that I'm using to be updated to that point. And then I have to make sure I keep all the mods and stuff working. So there's that. I may do a few episodes of something here or there just to show you guys how it's coming along so that I don't lose interest in the idea, because that happens. I also just like flying around with these guys and stuff, so it's really fun. And if I could possibly figure out multiplayer with all the mods working, I could probably do almost a 90% accurate representation of the Dragon Riders of Pern series in Minecraft, which would be amazing because Dragon Riders of Pern is a book series that needs to be done in some other media. It's beautifully done in the books. I've always wanted to play Dragon Riders of Pern. I've always wanted to experience firsthand, and video games are, of course, a great way to do that. I feel like a movie that would be made would probably not follow the greatest representation with the way movies are made now. If it was a movie made back in the day along the same lines as Dragonheart, I could see it working. But the way that movies are made now, it's just a big cash grab. It would tarnish the name of Dragon Riders of Pern. So I don't want to see a movie, but I feel like a game is a lot easier because the way you make money in a game is to follow it accurately. I feel anyway. I wouldn't buy a Dragon Riders of Pern game if it wasn't accurate. And I know there is a Dragon Riders of Pern game, but I do not know for what system or how to find or download or anything. If there is a computer version. If there is a computer version, I'm going to look straight after this recording to see. But if there is, you can bet to hell that I'm going to play it because that sounds amazing. I know that there's a game out there that was attempted to be made, but I don't think it ever really made it anywhere, unfortunately. But I've heard it exist. I've done my research back whenever I was still heavy into this series. I've read just about every book in the Dragon Riders of Pern series, and I think the two that I haven't read are sitting on my bed right now, ready to be read. So I know her son started taking over the writing, and he's doing pretty well. The last time I read, I think he wrote Dragon's Kin with her and Dragon's Blood. I read those. You could definitely tell the difference in their writing styles, but it was still good. But yeah, that's the plan. I hope you guys look forward to it. if you have any ideas or help for this idea, this series, if you know any specific mods that might help, as far like maybe an airborne parasite mod, or if any of you guys are modders and want to make the mods with me or for me, if anybody wants to do music or something for the game, for the Let's Play, anything. If anybody wants to help in any way, please let me know if you've got any ideas, if you want to be a part of it. Just let me know. The better, or the more people, the better, because that means the better quality that goes into it. And I think if I can get this done, it'll be my crowning moment as a YouTuber, and as a Pernese fan. Like I said, I've been a fan of this series for a long time, and I really don't want to mess this up. So, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna continue to just play around with this dragon, look around for mods and such, and I guess. Oh, another great thing is glowstone. There's actually something in the book that is basically glowstone. So it's beautiful in that way. So, yep, I'm gonna go. I hope you guys will look forward to this. The more encouragement that you guys give me, the more chance it actually has of becoming a series. So please, by all means, show this some support. If it doesn't get support, I'll forget. I can guarantee you that. That's just the way I am. So the more support I get, the more likely this is going to happen. Although I am going to try my best not to let this one slide, because, again, this is my favorite book series, so, yep. And if I can get this guy to give me a puppy dog face, we'll end the episode. Come on, dude. Valgranth. Look over here. Val. Come on. Come on. Buddy. Did I make you mad? Here, I'll give you some fish. See? You like fish. Look at all the lovely fishy. Aw, there you go. He's so cute.